Welcome to the November 2021 meeting of the DEI Leader Network. Diversity Works created the DEI Leader Network because we found that the role of DEI professional can be a really lonely one in a lot of organizations, especially if you're the sole person who's responsible for it or if you have a very small team. DEI leaders often shoulder an enormous amount of responsibility, and it can be a really tough topic. So this network is intended to give DEI leaders a community to lean on and learn from. And we're thrilled today to have our special guest, Ken Wiseman, here to talk about leadership commitment and accountability. Since we have a number of new participants on this month's webinar, I just wanted to introduce you quickly to Diversity Works. We're a women-owned company that evaluates organizations' DEI performance using a rigorous and data-driven approach. And we believe that effective DEI strategies are grounded in business drivers. And there are a number of ways that organizations can demonstrate their commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. So this matrix summarizes essentially what our worldview is when it comes to DEI performance. Today's topic, DEI leadership, commitment, and accountability, is there on the top line of strategy. And it's an area that we consider during a client engagement. And we've asked Ken here today to talk about this topic because it's an area in which AMS Fulfillment, his company, really excels. So got a lot to learn on this from Ken. Just a quick overview of the agenda today. We're going to look at the role of culture in AMS's DEI performance, what leadership commitment and accountability looks like at AMS. And Ken's going to share some of his best practices and tips. And again, we'll save time for discussion at the end, but please feel free to use the chat or raise your hand at any time during the presentation to ask a question or make a comment. So our speaker today, Ken Wiseman, is a Chief Workforce Development Officer at AMS Fulfillment. He's a founder and leader of AMS Fulfillment and a leader in his community. Ken impressed us immediately with his passion for workplace diversity and his belief that DEI drives value for his company and its customers. You can see from the bullet points here that he's not only talks the talk, but he also walks the walk. He's, basically any civic duty that needs leadership, Ken's there to raise his hand. So we're thrilled to have that he's taking the time to share his passion and knowledge with us today. And I'm going to turn things over to Ken to kick us off here.
All right. Well, good morning, everyone. Happy to be here. This is a very exciting topic for me, and I look forward to sharing a number of stories and thoughts about how it's worked so well for AMS. I like this first slide. I've always been, so impressed with Walgreens' strategy as we look at the various diverse communities that we want to service. Certainly, individuals with disabilities is a group that's always been passionate to me, and I've been so impressed over the years with Walgreens in the sense that they just don't walk the walk. They have committed to 30% of their employees being individuals that have some type of disability, and it's interesting because we were looking at putting an operation in Connecticut, and I was specifically talking to some of the county folks in Rocky Hill, Connecticut. And it turns out Walgreens was putting a facility in there, and I was looking into what kind of agencies they have that work with individuals with disabilities, because before even locating there, I wanted to make sure that there was going to be a population and a group of agencies we could work with. And they said, you know what, when Walgreens came in here, we were actually overwhelmed. They took so many of our folks that have been so anxiously looking for work that we had to actually expand our agency work to recruit more individuals that could meet their needs. That is such an amazing example of how when a company sets a goal that's going to provide for diversity and inclusivity and equity in a community, they can make a difference. And here in Rocky Hill, they actually increased the amount of opportunity tremendously for folks, but they have a goal. They have a strategy that 30% of their warehouse employees are going to be individuals with disabilities and store workers. So I'm very impressed by them. I think the next slide is a little different story. And I think there's a lot of areas where Wells Fargo is trying to do some good things, but this was a scary quote when Wells Fargo and company chief executive Charles Scharf exasperated some Black employees in a Zoom meeting this summer when he reiterated that the bank had trouble reaching diversity goals because there was not enough qualified minority talent. This is a sad statement because the opportunity to find great recruits really falls upon all of us in the business world. And we were talking earlier before this call with Holly and Elizabeth, and I was saying, we planted the seeds for AMS over 10 years ago when we started working with two of the area townships in the area that are underserved communities. We started looking at how can we help. And I remember one deputy coming to us during the recession and saying, we have a lot of youth that not only are they not working, but their parents aren't working. If you had jobs for them, it would probably help put food on the table and pay rents. And we immediately started interviewing kids from this area, and we hired 5 out of the gate. Within a few weeks, we had 18 of the kids working for us. And what we learned there is there was just so much opportunity to go in at an early stage and work with a community like this. We created, our IT department helped create a network facility area with, I think, 15 or 20 computers so that the youth and the adolescents there could use those computers in that community to study and grow. And now those kids, not only those kids, but now that many of their parents are working for us. So there is a responsibility for businesses. If DE&I is a passion for you, there's a need to go out into the community and see how you can help build and educate and attract great folks to come to your company. We've been very successful in that. We'll switch sides. Your strategies are limited to what your culture allows. If you're just strategy driven, it's only your executive team that's stating what the company stands for. When the culture is permeated through all of your employees, then the voice is from everyone. And that's where DE&I becomes successful. And that's where I'm going to point to where we first learned this lesson. We used to have a mediocre warehouse safety record, average. We thought that we were identifying all of the safety issues that were out there. We were passionate about that. But for whatever reason, we had a mediocre safety record. Today, we probably have the best safety record I'm aware of in our industry. And the reason is because we stopped it being about just what the executives had to say. And we took multiple steps. First, we educated everybody to know what safety looks like. Personally, I was CEO at the time. Personally, I started walking around 8 or 10 employees at a time in a 5-hour training program where we taught them what safety looks like. This is safe, this isn't. This is a movement that is too repetitive. We should come up with a better solution. We walk through all of the safety, we educated. But then, as importantly, we taught them that they have a voice. When you set the bar, this is the safety level we expect in this company, and we want you to tell us when we don't meet it. You empower the employees to become part of your team. You're embedding a culture of safety practices where everybody's opinion, observations count. And then we taught them how to use their voice and how not to settle for, oh, I told my boss about this 3 weeks ago. No. Go into another office, go to somewhere else. Maybe that person forgot what you said. Do not give up on safety. We've had 2 lost time injuries this year with over 600 employees. That number would be much, much higher in the average company. We took that strategy and we applied it to DE&I. You first have to establish what the bar is for your company. And so we started teaching our employees. Every one of our employees is going to go through one of 2 courses. If they're not in a leadership role, they're going to go through I want to be a leader. If they are in a leadership role, they're going to go through advanced leadership. And I want to be a leader. This is going to sound a little bit like the safety. We first teach them what a leader looks like. This is a leader. This is leadership qualities. This is what we expect in our company. Then we teach them how they can reach towards that. How can you take control of your career? What tools does our company offer you? And how can you work with us to advance your career? And then finally, how can you have a voice to make sure that if you see that we're not at that bar with our leadership, with our DE&I efforts, what can you do? So for the first time in my career in the last couple of years, we actually role play sitting down our leadership, employees knocking on the door, going, excuse me, boss, do you have a minute? Can I talk to you? Hey, I know you've been giving out a lot of overtime, but you haven't been giving me much overtime. What is it I'm doing that I could do differently so I can get some of that overtime? We teach employees that it's okay. It's okay to expect that that bar is consistent throughout our company. And in that way, everybody feels that they're empowered to be part of our team, and it embeds that culture in everyone. And then we teach the advanced leadership, and we teach the advanced leaders, this is what we're telling everybody is the bar. This is the bar you must maintain in this company. And by the way, we're teaching our employees to come to you and talk to you when it's not being maintained. We want you to keep that bar this high. And so that's been one major step that we've been taking. I talked about the safety, creating opportunities for individuals from at-risk communities. We work with almost every agency in the area. And trust me, I'll talk to the CEOs and CFOs for a minute. There is so many incentives for businesses to work with these underserved communities. There was a program during the recession, I'm not going to come up with the name off the top of my head. Somebody can put it in the text for me, where they were essentially offering free employees for a year. These employees were chronically underemployed, had various welfare, other types of issues. That's my group. We reached out, we said, give us our 5, sure, we're excited, bring them on. We got our 5 and they were wonderful and they were working with us. And then I got a call, can you take any more? I'm like, we already got our 5. Well, we can't find other businesses to take these individuals. Like, what do you mean? What's not with that they're free? They're not even on your payroll. No, we ended up hiring 57 people from that pool. 57 people at the end of the year. CFOs, you can quickly do the math on what that was like to have 57 employees, over 10% of our employees being paid for by the government. But more importantly to us, we were providing opportunities for individuals that really needed a hand. And why aren't other businesses willing to take these folks on? What's the fear? I'm going to share a quick story because it shares one of the fears that I had when I was young. When I was 23 or 24, I was working as a manager with Aramark in Connecticut, Southern Connecticut State University. I had just finished a teaching degree. I was starting my master's in special ed, and I was working for Aramark as a production manager. And I had a program with a local agency there. They were bringing in groups of maybe 15 to 20 individuals with cognitive challenges. And they were working within our kitchen facilities. We were feeding 1,500 people, fairly large facility, wiping tables, cleaning down soda machines, milk machines, et cetera. Wonderful group, great job experience, a big help to us. And I remember Rich, the manager with the agency, saying to me, Ken, we've got somebody who would like to apply for that pot washer position you have. I'm like, great. I said, Ken, he said, the only concern I have is that he's visually impaired. I mean, he's fully 100% visually impaired. I'm like, oh my gosh, wow. I don't think that's going to work out. I don't think somebody who's blind can wash pots. Well, Rich pushed me, as I'm glad he did, and we hired this young man. He was the best pot washer I've ever had when I was in the food industry. And that's not even the story. The story started when he came in and started working for us. The pots were looking great. Everything was good. And he approached the cooking staff and he goes, it's really helpful for me to be organized. Can you guys show me how you want me to put the pots and the pans and various utensils, etc., into the racks so that they're always in the same place? Cooking staff looked at him like, wow, usually the pot washers just sort of throw stuff on the racks. But they took the time with him and they showed him what would work, and he did that. A day or two went by, and then they came to him and said, how can we help you in terms of where we put the pots and pans to make life easier for you? Oh my gosh, thank you so much. And he showed them how they could put the pots and pans in certain areas. They used to just throw them in the sinks. Now they're organizing them. Suddenly there was a sense of community that was working at AMS, Aramark at the time. And the lesson I learned right then and there was, even as impassioned as I was about working with individuals with cognitive and physical disabilities, my God, I was pursuing a master's degree at the time. I still had a bias. And that bias almost prevented me from learning how amazing this individual could perform. But even better, how amazing that sense of community can become when folks embrace that we all come to the table with different skills, different strengths, and it's that sense of family, it's that culture that we can all drive that makes our company successful. It's great to have all these goals. It's great to have the right culture, but at the end of the day, your DEI plan also needs to be tracking. How are you doing? What were your original goals? Where are you at with them? Are you setting recruitment goals? If you're not meeting your recruitment goals, are you expanding perhaps where you're looking to recruit from, the message you're trying to send to recruit? Are you treating your recruitment efforts in this day and age where it's very difficult for many companies to find employees? Are you putting the same energy and effort that you put into sales into getting good people, a diverse group of people into your community, into your work community? After the recruitment and you're interviewing and you're showing them around and you're establishing excitement about wanting to come and work for you, are you maximizing that energy to show that what kind of a company you are, what kind of interests you're going to play in them, what kind of opportunities they're going to have to grow? Now they're onboarded. They're working for you. What are you doing to show them? Not everybody is always hands up going, what's my next opportunity? Many are hoping that you're going to recognize in them traits that are going to make them exceptional workers. What are you doing to identify that? How hard are you working to pull that quiet person out of their shell and make them a leader? Now you have people promoting within your company. You're looking at retention. You're looking at ways to keep them growing. In our case, we tell folks, you know what, there could come a time where we just don't have enough growth opportunities for you. And if you go somewhere else, we just want you to look back and say, AMS was the best place for me to develop in my career. We want you to look back favorably, and we want those referrals that we know you'll give us from the community to come and work for us. And when we do have terminations, why did people leave us? Do we study that enough? It's easy sometimes in an executive position to say, oh, we have very little turnover. But who is in that turnover? That's what's important to look at. We looked at that a few years back, and we found that we had a disproportionate number of individuals from our Black community that were not staying with us. And we were like, we got to fix that. We got to look into it. What's going on? Turns out that there was some issues related to the commute. It turned out that we could do a better job during orientation and during our training period. But sometimes you can't let the overall stat make you too comfortable. Oh, our retention's pretty low. No, when you're focused at DE&I, you want to look at the details and make sure you're doing everything you can to keep that diverse community that's inclusive and that's equitable for all. Leadership commitment at AMS. AMS is a certified B Corporation. If you're not familiar with it, please look it up. It means that to us, our relationship with the community and the environment and all of our stakeholders is important, not just our shareholders. In fact, our PE firm, Fort Point, that purchased AMS, bought us because we're a B Corp. They loved the fact that we are interested in more than just the bottom line. And when you're interested in the total community for which you serve, you actually, from a business perspective, do better. Hard to tell. Wait a minute, if I take my focus off profits and put it towards all my stakeholders, I do better. Yeah, it works that way. It's pretty cool. Some people ask me, tell me what a B Corp one of the most proud B Corp activities you did. And I'll share. COVID hit March 15th, 2020, no, 19 now. Within days, 21 retailers said they were closing the doors. We're a fulfillment company. We have 1 million square feet of consumer product that's being shipped out every day, much of it at the time when COVID hit to stores. Within a day or two, we knew we were going to have to downsize our staff by 35%. There's a traditional business approach to doing that. You can just tell every manager, we're going to do it by tenure, and these are the folks that are going to leave. Rarely have I seen it done by tenure. It's often done more like, let's try to keep our best workers and let go the ones that aren't cutting it. Well, neither of those works. And if neither of those work, if you follow the stats, a lot of times there's a lot of discontent with the unemployment process, the way companies handle it. Many folks won't come back. I think it's up to 1/3 of folks won't come back if they're let go and don't fully understand why they were let go. Often when we say somebody had a performance issue, we look back at their performance record and say, they had a pretty good performance record. Well, we also have learned over time that a lot of managers who struggle with facing conflict struggle with coaching and better mentoring employees. So people are let go who fully didn't understand that there was some performance issues. We made it simple. We did a survey to our employees. Question 1, if you're willing to be unemployed because you're concerned about your family affairs you have during COVID, you're fearful about being at work, you have other issues related to the COVID and you would like to be laid off, check here. 2, if you would like to stay at work, but if we have to do a layoff, are willing to be unemployed, check here. And 3, if you absolutely want to keep your job during COVID, check here. We were able to downsize the entire company with just the folks who checked 1. I want to be laid off. And within weeks, as those stimulus dollars started coming back into the economy and people decided it was time to reward themselves and purchasing started to go through the roof, our company that had downsized 35% actually ended the year at 130% of the year's forecast because everybody started buying. Well, guess what? All our people came back. I think there's 2 employees out of all of the employees that were unemployed that didn't come back, found other jobs during COVID. But when you do an action like we did as a B Corp, where you're not just thinking about yourself and your bottom line, but you're thinking about the entire community. We had people calling us after 2 or 3 or 4 weeks of being unemployed. Hey, when can I come back? I'm ready. So B Corp is a great thing to pursue. Very quickly, I'll just share that your mission statement has to be wrapped around it. Again, back to the importance of culture. Our mission statement is we'll provide our service in a manner that recognizes that profit and growth are not goals unto themselves, but merely outcomes of uncompromised attention to our customer, our organization, our community, and ourselves. The evangelizing of the middle management comes in our advanced leadership, but we also have a number of other training areas. We have HO1 HR, our 101 HR course. I think we've had about 8 sessions where any of our leadership can go and learn more and more about different HR procedures, better ways of doing performance evaluations, all the legal elements of HR, but to make everybody as sharp as we can on wage and hour laws, on all the things that are important in providing exceptional leadership. And I mentioned earlier, employees trained to hold their leadership accountable. having been the CEO of this company until 2.5 years ago, and then moving to our learning center, we have about a 2,500 square foot learning center that we have here that we've been using for years for our education. Now, I spend my time here. It's amazing to be in a classroom with a combination of your new employees coming in and employees who've been with you for 10 or 15 years and talking through the culture and talking through where that bar should be and hearing firsthand where you're hitting it and where you're not. It's a great education. It's been for me. Okay, so in terms of the holding yourself accountable, this is where Diversity Works came in for us. You know, you like to think you're doing a great job, but at some point it's great to bring in professionals that are going to give you, perhaps they're going to tell you things you want to hear, and they're going to tell you things you don't want to hear. We did a survey with our employees that gave us a lot of very good information about how we're performing. I think the Diversity Works team pushed and pushed and pushed that we had a very high percentage, probably 75, 80% return on the surveys, so that we could really get a good sampling of the information about where we were hitting it and where we needed to set, set new goals and metrics. We also look now at our performance reviews as not being a one-way where we're telling an employee how they're doing, but we're giving our employees more of an opportunity to tell us how we're doing and give us more of a chance to hear what their goals are and what they want to achieve, so that we're listening to that and making sure as leadership that we're providing for them in any areas that we can. So in terms of the comprehensive DEI evaluation, again, this is where it's very helpful to have an outside organization like Diversity Works working with you. I don't know, it seemed to me like it was 2.5 months of meeting for 1 hour a week at least. Sometimes we definitely overstretched it with Elizabeth, Denise, and Holly, 3 awesome folks that a lot of it was just conversation about DE&I, but then after the survey, a lot of it was looking at the detail and where can we make improvements and what kind of improvements can we make. I remember we provide a lot of education for our employees. And I remember thinking, you know, we're doing all this great offering of ESL after work. You know, we had one group of 16 employees go through 4 semesters of ESL. We work with our local community college. We've done the advanced leadership, and we're offering other types of Six Sigma courses, but they were before or after work. And our thought was, let's provide a great educational resource. Let's, you know, pay for or work with a college. Some of it was funded. There's so much funding available to help with the education you can provide your employees. And it was great. We had all these folks signing up for classes, and it was going well until I was teaching the I Want to Be a Leader class. And we were talking about those courses, and somebody raised their hand and said, you know, I'm a single mom. I can't stay after work and go to classes. I've missed out on those. And we talked to more individuals, and we got, yeah, I'm in a commute group that they don't want to do the class, so I can't do the class. Or I've got a second job. So as important as we thought that education was to provide to our employees, it was not equitable. We were not providing it to everyone. So now all of our classwork is during the day. We have employees who are leaving their job on the clock, coming into our classroom and learning ESL. They're learning, I Want to Be a Leader. They're learning advanced leadership. They're going to HR 101. They're going to classes on writing a resume and interview skills so that they can even improve their own ability to move up, whether it's with us or somebody else. We want people to know that we're interested in their future. It doesn't cost me a dime to have them coming on work time to learn, because we all engage. Employee engagement now is an important topic for all of us to understand, that whether it's just how hard they work or how smart they work, our employees have so much to offer us when they're fully engaged. And when you're giving them the opportunity to learn, you're making them become more engaged in wanting to grow and to make your company successful. So we've really enjoyed the opportunity to provide these educational resources to folks. It helps us set the bar. It makes sure that everybody knows they have a voice. The role playing we do is awesome, about everything from conflict resolution to change management to helping people understand the triggers that they face during work that could set them off, and in some cases lead to inappropriate behaviors versus how they can responsibly handle their conflicts, who they can talk to, and how they can grow in your company. The identifying underserved parts of our community, you know, there's a community 10 miles west of us that I've become involved in, and we just launched ESL for them. There was 27 people from this community that went to their first ESL class being held in their town. And it wasn't about 4 or 5 weeks into it where we sent Carmen Kernick, our HR VP, went over and met with the students. And here they're just starting excitement of learning English, and some of them haven't been past middle school, and suddenly they're college students taking ESL class. And Carmen went and spoke with them and offered employment opportunities and talked about how we're working more and more with individuals who don't speak English and how we have ESL classes. We made the case for why these folks should also consider coming to us for employment. So again, this goes back to, if you're going to be serious about DE&I, you have to be serious about going to where the folks are that could benefit from coming to you and being part of your diverse community. You have to go to them. You may have to help educate them. You have to help inspire them, but you have to go to them. They're not just going to, out of all of the places they could go for a job, they're not necessarily just going to pick you. You have to make a case. You have to be part of their community. It's also important for creating a channel for feedback. Now, we have a confidential phone line. That's an important element for all companies. I think more importantly is what we've been training now for 3 months and are launching in January, and that is our DE&I champions. We have 9 industrial buildings, over approximately 1 million square feet. Each building is going to have 2 DE&I champions. The last 3 months, we've been training them on how to sit and talk with folks who have come to them with concerns and determine, is that a concern that you can help them deal with by themselves in conjunction with their manager? Is it something that you should go to their manager? What are going to be the escalations on any type of DE&I matter that comes up? Favoritism, different biases, treatment from our management team. Anything that comes up that's concerning, we give folks in our company a channel. Now, January is when we actually launched the posters of showing our employees who those representatives are, because we wanted to make sure they were trained on how to escalate and how to manage professionally the concerns that might come to them. And so this is just one more effort we're making to make sure people have an avenue to give us feedback on how we're doing. All right.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Ken. This is, you can tell from the chat, people are, love your stories, and we really appreciate your insights here. To get the discussion started, again, folks should feel free to put a question in the chat or raise your hand, and we'll take you off mute so you can ask your question. But just to get us started here, Ken, what advice would you give to a nervous CEO that is afraid to delve into DEI? Like, a lot of CEOs kind of look like yourself, and you've certainly drunk the Kool-Aid and get it. But what about those who are afraid of the topic or feel like that's not for them?
Well, I think we are well beyond the point where many of us were years ago, where we used to think that providing employment for individuals coming from tough communities, and this doesn't necessarily have to relate to necessarily race or color or gender or sexual preference, but can include individuals that have had justice challenges, individuals with different types of disabilities, youth that are in at-risk communities. There's all these diverse communities that need our assistance. And it used to be that you were doing the right thing for the community to bring these folks in. Those of us who have been doing this for 10 years and those CEOs that I meet with and we talk through this and they give it a try and get back to me, and a year later with 8 individuals that they recruited that have cognitive disabilities that are doing an amazing job, or have started working with individuals that are justice challenged. We probably have at least 30 of those folks. They're awesome workers. People go, you sure you're not giving away too many of AMS's secrets on why you're not having employment issues? No. There's plenty of these amazing folks out there. And there's dollars. You know, if you don't realize it just from, okay, community aside, yes, it's great for the community. It's great for the culture of your company. I always say, I want to own some of the discussion that goes around the dinner table. I don't think when our employees are sitting around the dinner table, they're saying, oh, we got these really cool new boxes today, right? No, I want them to be able to share things like, you know, we hired somebody today and I don't know, he probably struggled in school a bit, you know, he struggles a bit, but he's so nice, he's so happy, he loves to work. That's what I want to be shared. I want people to feel community. And yes, then there's those dollars. You know, if I had to add it all up, AMS over the years has probably received over $4 million in federal, state, county funding for all of the different pre-apprentice, apprentice programs, programs we worked with. I've actually worked with sheriffs inside the jail, trying to provide a pathway for individuals to be able to come out of prison, to come to us. We've worked with the Department of Probation in the county on how we can be working with individuals to get them a job. Because once they have a job, the likelihood of them going back to prison is less than the normal population in which they live. They're going to be the ones who rise above. So you're not only doing something great for the community, you're doing something great for the bottom line, and you're doing something great for the culture of your organization.
Awesome. And I think that one of the things that we hear about warehousing and fulfillment, and we're not putting AMS in this category, but the coverage over the last couple of months has been focused around Amazon and difficulties with labor, whether that's attracting labor. There's been obviously a lot of concerns about how that labor is treated within those companies. Do you think that your DEI programs have led to you being able to recruit better than some of your competitors in terms of attracting talent to you and then retain that talent because of these programs you have in place?
Yeah, good question. So, we know from experience that wages are not a motivator, they're an equalizer. So yes, you have to be in a competitive wage range, but more importantly, you have to provide to the other 4 or 5 things that always come before wages as the most important thing to an employee. Safety is generally in the top 1 or 2. Being in an environment where your ideas are respected and you feel part of the team is always before the wages. Knowing that you have an opportunity to grow and that people appreciate you and give you rewards for verbally or give you, support for the job that you're doing. All of these are such important things that companies need to spend more time focusing on nurturing rather than just here's your pay and here's the number of units you have to pick per hour. If you're off that pick per hour, you lose your job. No, we have to accommodate where people are in their life. Younger folks, perhaps, that are happy. I have folks who say they don't have to go to the gym because unloading a container, they just go like madmen and women just unloading. And I've got other folks know that that's not for them anymore in their career. The nice thing about our industry is there's lots of different types of positions and we're able to shift people around. So when you make people number one, they make you number one. And then that's the partnership that you want in business.
That's a great philosophy. A question from a participant, Derek Webb. He's asking, you mentioned having employees at no cost to the company. Do those programs still exist? And I think Betty Lou put in the chat that the program is called GAIN. Is that the?
That was the GAIN program. Yes. Thank you, Betty Lou. That was, that program does exist to a certain degree today. More of the programs today are around internships, like 4 weeks, 10 weeks. Some of them can be extended. So if you hire somebody that's coming out of prison, there are a number of types of different programs where you might get the first 10 weeks paid. You have to check with the county that you're in, the state. I've received funding from county, state, and federal. And some of this money can go directly towards their wages. Some of it can go towards education. Some of the support is what we call wraparound support. So today, the GAIN program it may provide some offset for 500 hours or so, but also provide wraparound services that keep your employee employed with you, like assistance with childcare, like assistance with food, support in other areas. And when people can come to work not burdened by some of these other challenges in their life, they can be more appreciative that they just are free of that and become a more successful employee with you.
Great. All right, last call for questions for Ken. Anybody else? You can either take yourself off mute or put it in the chat.
I have a question, Ken. This is Ann Chauvin. I'm with Woodley House. And thank you, Holly, for telling me about this today. This is awesome. Really appreciate your passion and enthusiasm first, I have to say that. But one quick question. I'm just wondering, when you were talking about all of the things that employees have said are more important than wages, do you have like a reference for that? I'd love to, get access to that.
Every time I think about that statement, I just Google what's important to employees, and all kinds of studies come up. And, if it's a 1 to 5 ranking, wages are sort of in the middle at say 3 or 4. If it's a 1 to 10, typically wages are around 5. When people quit, they'll tell you they quit because they could make 25 cents more down the road. Are they telling you that wages was their decision? No, they're telling you that you gave them no other choice but to put wages as their decision point. Nobody leaves for 25 cents an hour unless you're not meeting the first 4 things that are important to them. So I don't have a reference except to say Google, and amazing studies come up.
Awesome, thank you. All right, well, thank you everyone, especially Ken Wiseman, for the insights and your amazing experience sharing that with us today. We really, really appreciated that. Just a heads up to everyone on the webinar, we'll be holding the next DEI Leader Network on December 16th at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. The topic for next month will be workplace celebrations, and we'll be giving out a goodie since it's the holiday season of a calendar that you can use to kind of plan your communications around different DEI related celebrations for 2022. So there's a reason to log in. You can contact Holly. Her email is sarahholly@diversity-works.net for more information about attending the next month's webinar. And if you will be distributing the recording to this in about a day's time. It takes us a little bit of time to download and compress and do a few things, but the recording for this one will go out to everyone here. And thank you so much for your participation today. We look forward to having you on a future networking webinar. And thanks again to Ken for sharing these excellent insights. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
All right. Well, thanks all. We'll be talking to you soon.